can start, I think. Call the meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I was just going to say, Justin doesn't like it when I start. Before.
You know, since we just did the Pledge of Allegiance, I think that we should, you know, like, say how, like, I think that we should say something in recognition of our veterans.
Veterans Day. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yesterday, I heard a really good talk about veterans and how we don't have so many veterans anymore and not as many people go into the military. And so it's really important for us to remember the people in the military because they're getting less and less, and so it's not so personal to everybody. But they do a lot, and they're there, and we need to make contact with them and appreciate it. So I guess on behalf of the board, I'd like to, you know, thank all of our veterans.
Thank you.
I agree.
I agree with you. I have 2 veterans in my family. Okay, approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Any additions or corrections at all?
I'd second that too.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Public comment period. This is time for...
Anybody there have anything to say?
We could say thank you for not snowing here.
Yet.
Okay. Well, Brian, is he still next door?
He was.
We can take Bob.
Bob, you want to go ahead with your permits as long as you're here? I think we all have copies of them.
Okay. Well, if you had a chance to read a little synopsis I put together on the
Yep.
slide.
That was
proposal.
good, thank you.
It was a little more in-depth than some of the applications we've had. There's a few issues that came up that, you know, pertaining to that conditional use that didn't exactly fit the ordinance. A couple things that Planning Commission pondered and we're trying to work through with the applicant. And basically, they denied the application on a couple things. One, it wasn't a temporary dwelling. It's the existing old farmhouse there. It didn't sit on the same premises as the new dwelling. And so there's 2 premises there, or 2 parcels that they have to deal with. And then the time frame couldn't really be nailed down with the applicant. So with that in mind, with some in-depth discussion on it, they felt that number 1 of the findings was reason to deny it, that it didn't fit the criteria of the land use plan. And so that in mind, they recommended denial of that. So any questions?
Do you need a motion to accept the denial or
Yeah,
nothing?
it'd be up to you to go ahead and make a decision one way or the other yet, with their recommendation being to go ahead and deny it.
I'll make a motion that we follow up with the denial on the permit.
Okay.
I'll second.
With the same criteria, finding number 1?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
What about the Markness Sulky, Polka Township, and administratively denied setbacks?
Oh, that one, I met Mark out on the site, and it was a property line issue there, where he thought the property line didn't fit the description or our area photos. And so if he'd have built that garage, it actually, part of it would have been on the neighbors, and so we had to go
Not
ahead
good.
and deny it. So
Mhm.
he's gonna look at maybe purchasing some additional land from the neighbor, and he probably will come back in and reapply. So. The other thing too, I had 2 temporary ag employee housing renewals, one for Banman Orchard and one for Old Hickory. And those are yearly renewals, once again, and these go back quite a few years. But both of them are not proposing any changes and would like to extend their permit for an additional year coming up.
I'll move to approve permits.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Here's the application for slide there, so it's and just to report on the variance from that evening, that got tabled, and so they're going to go ahead and view the site for Darrell Taylor and go out and check it out a week from this Thursday, the 20th, and reconvene that evening to make a decision. And as far as any other permits there, is there any other questions on those? Or?
We need a motion to approve the zoning permits. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. This is one of the things that was not on the agenda for today, but there's been a lot of talk at the state level on what's going to happen as far as funding on the transportation side. MnDOT State Aid Office has produced a pamphlet here that kind of shows where the revenue from roadways typically come from, less to do with local bonding and stuff, and how that funding gets split. So if you kind of open it up in here, and it has shows that the revenue comes from the fuel tax, license fees, motor vehicle sales tax, and then the interest that is achieved from that. Total in the state, you get about $1.9 million or $1.9 billion out of those four revenue sources. If you follow the primary funding sources, it gets down to a distribution that goes to the trunk highway system of 62% of, well, they take 5% off the top for different aspects. So then the 95% remaining gets split up three ways. 62% goes to the state truck highway fund, 29% goes to county municipal state aid, or county state aid, 9% goes to county municipal state aid. All of that top, that other 5%, it goes to like the town bridge account and other funding sources. So just pamphlet or some information if you want to look at how the funding gets split up. And it was asked if we can maybe scan this and put on the county website and stuff so that if anyone has any, wants to see where the funding is.
How are we doing? I mean, we always get things from the Transportation Alliance. Should we be going to those meetings or? I mean,
I've gone to a couple of meetings in the past. It's a long way up there for a meeting. Some of them are beneficial, some of them aren't. A lot of times I get updates, from the Alliance myself too, and from the other county engineers that go to those meetings. It's a good way to go to tell the legislatures, that money is getting tight. But you're asking for more taxes to be imposed. Is it worth the trip up to those meetings? I guess that's something you guys can decide.
I mean, I looked at the list of all the people who were going, and there wasn't anybody from like this area. That's why I just.
A lot of the ones that are going end up being the metro area ones because they're close by.
Yeah. So are we represented? Do they hear what you're saying down here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they definitely hear. I know that they get pushed pushed and pulled from different county engineers from around the state, along with different county boards and from different legislatures from all different areas. So yeah, I mean, they're definitely hearing what's being said out of state.
Good.
I mean, I just never knew if that was something that one of us should be attending or.
Yeah, I said, I've been to a couple of meetings in the past. For myself personally, with all the meetings I have, it's not my top priority to drive up there for, a 2-hour meeting, spend 5 hours on the road. And a lot of times it's more of an update on what's happening at the state level.
And they give that
What's
in
being talked about.
their emails also.
Yes. Yes. So to go up there and listen to an update, it's maybe not necessarily beneficial. If you're already up in the area, then
I mean, if there's ever something that you think that some of us should go up for, then, if you would let us know, we could arrange that. I just didn't know if it would.
Yeah, we get quite a few.
Yeah, we get a lot
From
of
that.
emails from Transportation Alliance, so I read them.
good. Yeah, so do I.
Margaret Donahue or something
Yeah.
like that?
Yep.
Yeah, so I've always wondered if,
Yeah, like I said, I do talk to Margaret a couple times a year along with, most of the engineers and stuff, so they are getting their input from the county and stuff.
so if you ever need us to, just let us know, otherwise we won't worry about it.
Okay.
I'm kind of surprised that townships only get 5%.
Yeah, well, if you actually look at the funding versus mileage roadways, roadways get damaged so much by, the traffic and stuff. So the state gets 62% of the funding, and if you actually look at their system, I want to think their actual roadway mileage is at like 13%, or it's way less percentage.
Yeah,
what
that's
they get
true.
in funding. Seeing that the county gets quite a bit more than the townships, even though townships have more miles of roadway, but because of the damage from the traffic. And then the state does do their bonding, and there's additional funding that gets in there for replacing township bridges. So then it comes down to the township road maintenance cost of what they get for maintenance versus what they actually spend. And they're kind of like the county is, they get enough money to do some maintenance, but not enough to do everything. On the bridge side, historically there's been enough money in bridge bonding by the state legislature to cover almost every bridge that's been submitted. Maybe would have to wait 1 year to get funding. Now we're at that tipping point that's been happening on the transportation system all around the state with not only bridges but on roadways and stuff, where there's not enough money there to cover everything that wants to be done. So this year I think there was $4 million worth of bridges that are sitting there as of 3 months ago, sitting there waiting for funding. They don't have enough local money, don't have enough state aid town bridge or state aid money to cover it. And so they wait till funding. So if there's a bridge bonding bill, some of them might get covered, some of it might not. But then that list is keep piling up as many backlogs. So.
Good.
So that's not why I was here today, though. So,
Uh-huh.
I have 3 projects I'd like to final out. The first project is going to do the one from Van Gundy Excavating on Daly Creek. It's project SAP 28-599-073. This was a small bridge replacement project over in Buchanan Township. The bridge was replaced with box culverts. Original contract was for $210,303. The total work certified was $204,005.49. So it came in $6,000 under the original proposal.
I always feel funny when I'm turning my computer to read your things.
Oh, because it doesn't automatically rotate?
No, I can't get it to rotate.
I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Okay, the second project I have will be the traffic marking services pavement marking county project 2014-05. Original contract was for $94,090.89. The work certified is $103,436.48. So this one was, $9,000 or getting close to $10,000 over the original contract. This is county project, so this is local money paying for it. The issue with this is the mileage that we had written down in the contract was different than what was in the field. So County 3 jogs in, or County 2 jogs in and out of Iowa. And so that was one of the roadways that our mileage was off on this part that was marked, along with one other roadway, that the actual mileage in the proposal was different. And I think what it was on 2 is that we had it measured up until when it went out into Iowa. Forgot to count the very far segment down back into Minnesota. And then the other one in roadway was off as well. So it amounted to 10,000 extra.
Do we have the money to pay the bill?
Do we have money to pay the bill?
Do we have to pay it?
We have to pay it. We are going to end up over our budget this year. Every year since I've been here, we've finished substantially under our budgeted allotment on the highway side. This year with the project on 4, we've had to do extra work on that. We've done extra stuff on County 9 before I was paid. That wasn't on the original plan. And the parts and repairs on vehicles have just, everything's gone over on that end. So we're going to end up over budget this year. So do we have fund balance to pay for it? Yes, there is fund balance that we can pay for. Our fund balance is pretty healthy on the heavy department side, but we are going to be dipping into that. If there was a way to cut this out as it was happening, as after we realized that we were over on mileage, we would have cut it out. The time we realized it was too late to make that adjustment.
So does Iowa pay for part of the roadway then also?
We did not stripe Iowa. It's just that when we originally counted the mileage, it goes. You go there and you drive the roadway to see exactly what mileage you want to pave. And we had to redo all the pavement within Houston County on that stretch. It's just that some of it wasn't counted on the original mileage estimate. So.
Okay. Yes, it is what it is. I'll make a motion to approve.
And I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I will mention as well, if we get it, like I said, I know we're going to be getting into fund balance this year. If that becomes an issue, we can look at something in 2015's costs and projects and change something there to make up for it to get that money back into fund balance. But let's see where we end up for this year first. Final contract I have would be for the runway paving contract out at the airport. Project number 82801-25 and 26. Contract number 3-27-0016-05-13. Not a typical project number due to paving of the airport, so different funding sources. So the original I want to make sure I get you the right number. Original contract was for $419,027.75. There was a change order that added another $2,208.38 to it. After everything was done out there, as that was the first change order, second change order, another $21,000. Ultimately, our total project was $412,773.12. Out of that, I did not have the local split on this, but the percentage that ends up becoming county is real low of that total. There's some different funding splits because different areas of the airport was covered at different percentages. The runway ended up being covered at 100%. The apron was 80% up until the areas in front of the hangars, and that was all local, so it was different funding split depending on what portion of the runway and the aprons. So the majority of this project was covered by state funding sources. So overall, I think that project turned out pretty good. We had a couple areas where the runway was soft and weak and got into issues trying to get that pavement down. We had to bring out some smaller rollers to keep the pavement from cracking as it was being placed. But ultimately, it worked out, I think, to close the project out.
The buildings that are out there, who owns the buildings?
The hangars themselves are owned by the hangar owners, the landowners out there.
Okay.
We own the land underneath the hangars. The other buildings out there, the Rebel Departure Building, I shouldn't say that the Rebel Departure Building was donated, I'm not sure 100% of who owns that, but the bathrooms are owned by the county. The building that has our controls out there for the airport is all owned by the county. The fuel system is owned by the county.
Looks really nice out there.
Everything the county owns now looks pretty good, you know, it's been painted, we've done some improvements out there, so. And then the hangars, the building side, there's gonna be some discussion at some point here, sometime in this next 6 months, maybe 3 months, we should probably get the FAA down to talk about future airport issues. We could get into a point where we might not be able to get FAA funding if the number of planes out of our airport goes down by 2 planes where we're at. So we might need to make sure that the planes stay out there or build a couple hangars, do something to make sure we don't get down below 10 planes. Currently we're at 11. So.
How many did there used to be at, when it was the most out there? Because it used to be,
I think we have, is there 13 hangars out there?
14.
14 hangars.
okay.
So that's probably the maximum we've ever been for planes.
That's the hard thing too, general aviation's not growing substantially, it's getting more expensive.
Yeah, so the issues that we're gonna, like I said, we'll bring down the FAA or Midnight Aeronautics. If we get down under 10 planes, then we'll get to a point where the $150,000 that we get allotted to us annually for improvements out there and maintenance and stuff, that can go from $150,000 down to nothing. So.
Justin, you're the flyer on the
Yeah.
board.
When I asked you if you want to
Yeah.
buy a plane, I'll fly it.
You buy it, I'll fly it.
So I just found this out when I met with the FAA at our annual meeting at late October.
Sure.
So some future discussions going forward, but nothing we need to do. But it might be something we might want to at least consider potentially buying a little bit of land with this money if we have it, to be prepared to buy hangars if we build hangars if we need to, or at least some long year, 20-year planning out there. And maybe it's just sit there and do nothing and hopefully we stay at 10, 11, 12 planes.
I know there was some discussion a long time ago too about if we had to do something with the hangars, rebuilding hangars and stuff like that. I mean, is that, do you know if it ever came down to that? Is there funding for the FAA if, say, the county said, hey, you know what, we're going to build 5 hangars and take the front row hangars out and move it back or do something? I mean, or isn't there because they're kind of privately owned? Or
There, well, if the county built, they'd be publicly owned.
Okay.
We won't build themselves. There is some funding on what the ratio that can, I don't know what they would cover. The hangars are supposed to be a revenue generating source, if we own them. We at least once we get money back in. So because of that, they could say it's 100% our cost. They could say it's 50% our cost. They might be able to say it's only 20% our cost. You know, we don't know. You know, if it's something where that hangars are real critical to keep the airport functioning, it's a lot easier to potentially get money than if we say, you know, we should expand.
Okay.
So, and even ask the FAA or Midnight Aeronautics, they're not even going to tell you, oh yeah, it's going to be this number.
Sure.
So,
Do you need a motion on that, or did we do?
yep, need a motion on the final.
Motion to approve the final on the report.
Second.
Question. I see on our claims we have a $10,100 claim for a runway laptop. Is that different than what we're talking about? It was in the claims, 10,100.
That's the payment for this estimate. So that has the retainage in it.
Is that different than what we're voting on?
No, this is just the final closing out, that's the final payment that's remaining here. So out of the 412,000 that are going to be paid with this amount to close the project out, there's only $10,100 remaining. The rest of it's already been paid to the contractor.
Any other questions? All in favor? Opposed?
Hey Brian, real quick, fill me into, because I've been hearing rumors with Crescent, with that annexing the property. What's that for, do you know?
For next week?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The property that Skip Weezer is going to come in here and talk about is a property right along County 28. What I have asked him to do.
25?
Yeah.
Along County 25. It is a property that, from what I've been told, is that the landowner has come to the city and asked to be annexed, and their septic system has failed. In order to connect to the city's water and sewer, the city requires that they become within the city limits.
I see, so they want to annex
Otherwise,
it
they would have to
together.
build a mound system within their yard. Mound systems aren't ideal when you have a 30-acre lot or whatever it is. So this is at the request of the landowners, what I've been told. I've asked Skip to get a letter from the landowner with that request to the city, get their documentation on what the city wants to do. Roadway side, it doesn't have any impacts to us. Being over 5,000 people, we have our state aid account, state aid municipal account. State aid municipal account goes to roadways within municipalities under 5,000. So since McCrescent's historically been over 5,000, it does not have any change in their state aid funding on the county side. So if the landowner requests it, the city wants it, I don't know if the township's going to be opposed to it or in favor of it. From what Jake explained to me, township really sounds like they've been okay with annexations as long as the landowners want it. But there is some other disputes on the annexation side between the city and the townships. So the township might be against this one because of the other ones.
Is this
And
in an area that they were offered sewer?
This is in that area that sewer was added to some homes in that area last summer. So I'm not sure if this landowner had that option to be on at that point or not. I did tell Jake that it would be nice to have a letter from the township or someone from the township give their blessing before next Tuesday. So I'm trying to get him to get everything compiled. I told him to get everything that he has to Char by Thursday morning so that she can get it out to the board.
Mhm.
So essentially, I'll let Skip present everything next week. And like I said, I've seen the map. I sent the map on, but I don't know a whole lot of details besides being told that the landowner wants that annexation. So.
Thanks.
One thing before I go, I talked to you about down by Heinz's culvert and ditch and stuff out there on 3.
On 3?
Yep.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, we weren't going to do anything because I found in our file that the right-of-way width is only 50 feet and that ditch is outside the 50 feet. Well, now I found something else in our file that kind of conflicts. It says that we might have some obligations or some issues to maintain that ditch. So one document says our right-of-way only goes to here, and another document says that we have to maintain this ditch out here. So I'm going to go talk to Dick about that. So what I told you previously might
Okay.
change a little bit. So,
Do I need to get back to her at all? Or let it?
No, I
sit
will
for-
talk to both line owners and let them know.
Okay.
So, try to get that done today or tomorrow.
Okay. I'm sure I have her name and number yet.
Yeah, well, I called her up and
Okay.
talked to Patty and told her one thing, and now it might change a little bit. So,
Okay.
but, so.
Sounds good.
Brian, is 4 going to be done before?
Um,
It'd be tough for you to plow with the way it's.
Right now, there's about a quarter mile or a third mile that's not paved. It doesn't have the second lift on. Everything else has the second lift on. There was some discussions with Matthew this morning on what's going to happen. So I don't know if it's going to get done or not because of the weather. So
It'll be tough to plow.
if things are dry today, they'll hopefully get it done today. Otherwise, the rest of the week they won't be able to pave. Next week will depend on the weather and if it's warm enough or not. So we're getting into, if it doesn't get done, the maintenance and the costs of
I
next
have to
spring.
get basket.
It'll be plowed one way or another.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You'll take care of that, Heinz, and that pad?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I won't call it. But, you know, the election's over. Okay, Tess?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Have just a few things to touch base on. And Shar is the department head on the first one, so Shar will pretend you're here.
Okay.
Speak up as you feel comfortable doing so. At this point, we're recommending the lateral transfer of Mary Gilbranson to fill the deputy auditor position that was formerly occupied by Carol Sherburne. It's a tech clerk 2B22. She would be filling it at her current rate, which is of pay, which is $17.16 an hour effective. I have it effective tomorrow. It could be effective the next day as well. Tomorrow being a holiday. We're looking to, we had quite a field of candidates. I would say a pretty competitive field of candidates. We looked at our previous search we had done, which actually had been for a B2-1, but we thought that there would be some time savings as well as cost savings, and interviewed, I believe it was 5.
Correct.
And two really rose to the top for both of us, and determined that to do the to hire Mary. Mary interviewed quite well, was very competitive. So at this point, we're looking for a motion to approve changing Mary over to the other position.
Shar, thoughts?
I guess that was my plan to begin with.
Okay.
That is a very pivotal position. It's very important. The person is in charge of most of the land transfers. They have to know everything in the auditor's office side, plus they back up the license center. There's really no way somebody could come in off the street and do all of that in one shot. So that's kind of my plan.
Sure. Motion, I will move that we hire or lateral transfer Mary over to the auditor's office.
Second.
Further discussion, she will also be helping
She will
in
still
the
be helping in the
license.
license center too.
But you all do anyway, you kind of, when
They
you
do.
can?
They do, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I know the second position is a controversial one. It has been brought to my attention by both by the department head as well as by the personnel committee. But I am looking for a request to go out and search the vacancy that is now created in the licensing center. The I spent quite a bit of time analyzing both of these positions. Both of these positions have historically have had, does not mean that in the future going forward they necessarily will, because you could have considerable cross-training and job sharing, lots of different possibilities. But this time, we actually have them, and have for historically listed as separate positions. They have distinct separate duties. They have distinct separate skill sets that are required for them. Yes, they are rated the same as far as the classification process. However, they do come with, are quite distinctive from each other. We would be looking at initiating this search right away. We'd be hoping that we could advertise this along at the same time with another search that we're going to be doing in public health, and have some savings that way with regards to our ad. But so we'd be requesting at this time the ability to go forward with that search immediately.
And there's no way we can use the candidates from the other search and not have to search? I mean, if we had
We have really exhausted that pool. We did not rate the files for those skill sets. We did not advertise for that opening. It is perceived, and I think it's a realistic perception, that these are different positions with different functions. Initially, we've had interest in one position or another, both that had been reported to our office internally. I know they do require their different positions. The person that was, when Mary occupied the licensing center, I was very, I really worked with the department trying to determine percent time that may have been on the other side. It was easily well over 35, maybe even 38 hours a week, unless it's during election camp season, at that desk. Like I said, the skill sets, rather, the duties and skill sets are distinctly different. And we have not advertised. It would violate, in my opinion, violate our equal opportunity, our commitment that we have both in our union contracts as well as in policy, because we have not made a public advertising of those positions.
On the flip side of that, I've got 4 people. They're all rated the same. They're all deputy auditors. I have to have the ability to use them where I need them, when I need them.
Mm-hmm.
And they do cross-train back and forth, maybe not to the extent that Tess feels they should, that warrants them being the same, but they do have to have all the skills to do everything. I do have to have the ability to use them where I need them, when I need them.
Mhm.
And that is my plan.
This would not preclude that. This would not preclude it in any department cross-training their folks. In fact, I highly encourage it. In fact, even would encourage going a step further and saying it makes perfect sense to me from a human resource perspective that even create some job sharing so that you have people that are in significant portions of their time learning each other's jobs. However, we have a B22 Tech 2 is a designation, that classification that we have in many of our offices around our agency, around the county. And we do not, just because they're in the same department or if they're in different departments, they're not necessarily interchangeable. In some situations they might be, but in most situations they aren't. And we haven't, just because they have the same rating. It would be like department heads who have the same rating, just picking one up from one department or one job because they have the same rating and putting them into another job. I find this, I respectfully disagree with the department head in this case, in that when I audited the position, if you will, I asked very specific questions on how much time, what job duties, how much, why is this one so distinctive from that one? If in fact they weren't so distinctive, why would we be needing to even transfer within the department? They are really different positions, extremely different job duties, at least 95% of the job duties, it appears, on any given work week. And ultimately it's the decision of the board. It's not my decision, but I'm just recommending an equal opportunity search because it fits the criteria that we've used for at least the last 5 years that I've been here, and how we open up positions and such.
How do we do it, like, though, when we hire a lead jailer, then we hire somebody?
A lead jailer is a little different. It's actually considerably different. We've hired lead jailers in, I'd have to go back and look at the history of it, but in one of 2 ways for sure. I don't know if the second one, we've done an external. A lead jailer is a different designation, that is true, from a jailer. It requires, built into that job description is the experience doing having experience doing all the jailer duties, they also have to be able to drop in and assist at any point in there, including in the dispatch. We're talking about a job here that 95% of these duties were different. 95% were different. These weren't one person as lead over a unit of the same 100% duties. They aren't, they're in the same, the only thing I can tell you is they're in the same office. They're in the same department. I don't know any other, and they fill in for each other at the counter for lunch. Historically, Carol has filled in, and maybe some vacations, but it's, when I asked, is it, 35 hours a week over here, or is it more? And they said, no, it's more than 35 hours are spent at this licensing desk. So
Let me ask you two questions. One, like Judy brings up a good point. When you have a jailer dispatcher, those are two totally different duties that are kind of the same boat. 95% of the duties in the dispatch are not the same as the jailer. So how are they? It's always jailer slash
because
dispatcher.
we require them to have 100% of the knowledge of being a jailer,
Mhm.
of which they are over, and it's a different classification.
I see.
And we put that out competitively, and we make it a competitive process. We have not ever assigned it without a competitive process.
I see.
But if you've had five.
So they aren't over 5% of what they used to do. They're over 100% of what they used to do. It's within the same line.
So,
I'm
would,
sorry,
like,
Commissioner Walter, I apologize.
I was just
for
going to say,
interrupting you.
but you did have 5 applicants for the deputy auditor position, which also works in the licensing center.
Any way you slice it, I've got 4 people that I need to be used where I need them, when I need them.
well, yeah.
And I guess I don't want to argue about percentages. To me, that's not what's important. They all have jobs to do. I use them where I use them, when I need them. When Carol Sherburne first worked there, she worked in the license center. When we had an opening, someone quit in the auditor's office. She moved over there. We didn't go through the competitive process then. This time we did. I guess it's over and done with. I just want to move forward and fill the position.
As do I, and I will just say that I'm not here to argue about it. In 5 years, I've never had this kind of argument with anyone about filling a position. The duties are, and yes, we should be able to use people in our departments to fill in, and I encourage to cross-train and do all of that. It has not been to the extent that it's being represented. The duties are distinctively different to 95% of the duties. The qualifications, that's all I'm looking at. The qualifications and the questions in the rating will be done differently. The questions will be different. The advertising should be equal opportunity, and that's all I'm saying.
So-
That's all I'm basing it on. It's not based on trying to usurp a department head's authority.
No, but I guess I just have one more question just to kind of clarify some of this up. So why, and maybe I'm off base, but why is it that, we've got one department which is considered the auditor's office? Is this something that, so that this doesn't happen again in the future, that we have the job descriptions that you're required to know both ends of that, just like we do a jailer slash dispatcher, that when you go out, we're hiring somebody for the auditor's office. It just happens to be, you're in the auditor's office and we're going to put you in this area most of your time, but you need to do this. I mean,
Then they
having
should
two
be trained in
distinct
both
differences.
areas. Then they
Okay.
should be trained in both areas.
Okay,
And trained not for a 1 hour a week fill-in, trained to actually do the duties and be able to take over those duties full force. I don't want to get into the details of the questions that I asked.
Mhm.
But I did ask several questions as to how much time. Personally, right now, what I think happened a few years ago was that the job descriptions were put together for the purpose of a rating that may or may not be reflective of what the rating should have been. They do not until I started getting into this, accurately reflect what the position in the license center was. And when I looked at the file, it was just certain things that were checked off. I'm trying to make that accurate.
Can I ask a question? As we're sitting here talking about this, I keep thinking about lean, you know, and how we want to, you know, use lean in our department. I feel like we're taking a step backward instead of forward, because if we're talking about doing this, to me, it doesn't make any sense to not just go forward with this.
I am in full agreement with you, Commissioner Storley.
So am I.
At this time, the issue is whether or not we need to do a search. We do not have, in my opinion, an applicant pool to draw from for this search. It has not been advertised as to what the duties are, and that's, I fully agree with you. In fact, that's what I would call job sharing more than even backfilling, so that people are fully capable of doing all parts of it. But we don't have a pool that I feel, we have a B21 pool that we have used twice now.
B21 pool
A
that we used twice.
B21 pool was what was originally advertised, that I said I felt we had potential, not a B22 position. Our position over in corrections was a B21, we advertised for a B21. We advertised, though, with a certain amount of considerable looking at complex legal documents, having some financial background, having all these things. So it seemed like an adequate pool for the position, trying to be expedient with not only time but also money. This right now going forward, we have never, I think we've exhausted our pool and need to repost.
So there's no
We
people.
would have a pool of maybe one or maybe two people, and that's not a competitive pool of applicants.
So, then in your opinion, you don't feel that the other people who you interviewed have the ability to do the job that Mary was doing?
I'm not certain, because we never even got, and we've never posted this. I know for a fact there's other candidates that are interested and that inquired about this position.
Well,
And
then
did
I-
so for a month. I mean, it would not be even in the sense of fairness for equal opportunity. I don't know why we wouldn't advertise this position.
All right, then I would like to see in the future this not become an issue again when we're hiring in a department, because we shouldn't have to spend the money to advertise, spend the money to interview. If these positions are that close, we should be asking a multiple of questions so that both
Mhm.
positions can get filled instead of
Exactly.
just one, and then we re-advertise, we spend the time to rehire. That's not lean. I mean, I think that we really do need to look at
Commissioner
the broader
Storley,
range.
I agree with you fully. If we had started this as an advertised it separately by itself at the beginning, we might have been able to do that with the department plan in place for how we will have in-depth cross-training. We didn't start there. We started with the vacancy, which my office brought forth a proposal that we could possibly help this department head meet immediate needs and look at a pool that we had just interviewed, I believe, the week prior. So we didn't spend any extra money on that. Had we done what you are suggesting, which is not a bad plan, it's actually a very good plan,
Well,
and
but
spent
we
some
gotta-
time on it, we would have had a new ad, we would have had a new position description potentially, and we would have had met the department head's expectations and needs going forward. But it would have needed to be advertised openly and allow folks, we'd probably have a total different pool of applicants, because
Well,
of
we
the way
need to
we
move
would have
forward on
advertised.
this,
Well,
and I think in the
I really
future.
want to see that happening. Like if Bev has an opening in her department and someone's going to possibly qualifying her department to go to that position, then I want to see it advertised as a combined, because to me, this seems like,
I agree, and that requires planning on the department head's part as well as HR's part, because that means we need to, instead of rushing into things, get together, make a plan for the future, a plan as to what the organization in that department would look like. And we do that, HR does that work with departments currently, and we, just to assure you, we do work together closely with that in mind. But it takes some planning up front. It's not hurry up and jump through the hoop. I agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more.
Well,
It is the most effective and efficient thing to do for the community.
I will only add that I agree with Judy totally. I think that makes sense.
after the election, you still agree with me?
But, no, I mean, it makes sense, and we do have an issue here where that is something that needs to be looked at. I understand that maybe it didn't get off on the right foot, and I understand where you're coming from, test two, as far as equal opportunity. We didn't start off that way, so now I can see that. I also see, too, Shar being the department head and the elected official, how she needs to change her people around is her prerogative, so that's where, yeah, I understand the train got derailed and we need to bring it back, but I would like to see that in the future, too, so that this doesn't come back again, that, yes, and this is for all department heads, too. I understand, like, say public health, nursing, you have a nursing degree, you can't do, I understand that. But as far as people being hired and hired with the skill set, that you might be moved to these other areas to allow that to take place is obviously a smart thing to do. So, and I don't know if anything can be done with that as far as now, since we did fill one position and we have another position open, but obviously in the future, I think, I agree with Judy, we need to look at that you're hired, even though you may not be doing these jobs, you're hired with a skill set that someday you'd be able to do those jobs if need be.
And for adequate, because we have to audit how we pay people as well, then the people need to be actually doing the jobs.
Yep.
Otherwise, their position description is not accurate, their pay may or may not be accurate, and we also may have pay equity issues. So having all that in mind, that requires considerable planning, it requires considerable dedication to assuring that there is this rotation within the office.
Yep.
And otherwise, we have disparate pay for the jobs that are being done potentially, and we create audit issues for ourselves from a HR audit perspective for how we're classifying and paying people.
Well, I know this probably is a unique position too, in the fact that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the people in this department that we're talking about, these positions are paid the same anyway. It's just a lateral movement that, yet today you're working the front desk, tomorrow you're working this. It's the same duty. It's just where we put you today is somewhere different tomorrow. I mean, I don't think you need to pay double because they can do, you're only doing one job at a time and they're both the same pay, correct?
Correct, Commissioner. The question becomes, though, whether or not they, there has not been an HR audit of the office and the staff for each position or for a combined position. So we don't know if they were paid the same appropriately to begin with, and I'm not here to say that one's a greater position than the other. That had not been done, and it had, titles were thrown together. However, we in HR do not look at titles. We look purely at what is the work and what is the minimum skill set for that work for entry level. And if in fact you want a different design, which we should have in our offices, then we classify those positions that way, we pay that way, and moreover, we actually employ our people in those positions doing that work that way.
Okay, we need a motion to move forward.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. Commissioner, we have Mary Marshall, Public Health here, and I'm going to pass around a document that we're going to be working off of here. Make sure I have them. Just ran our numbers with so what else you also received in your packet was a reorganization plan. The Department of Public Health has spent a considerable amount of time analyzing their staffing needs since their vacancy was announced. It's been a good 6 weeks, at least. And really analyzed their support positions and have come up with a proposal that we're going to discuss today. Right now, we had a vacancy of our office support specialist about 6 weeks ago. Maybe it's been a little longer than that. We had 2 FTE as office support specialists. And we have one, and that's our current status, and we have one with one of the FTEs being vacant. We also, current status is 1 FTE as accounting clerk. And what the Loretta and Mary and other staff who may have been involved, and then I've talked to them about, is that they see, they've outlined all of the duties that they need, especially with the impact of healthcare reform, and really look to see where it was the Department of Health, what their admin staffing needs are. And at this point, they've determined that their admin staffing needs are going to be 2 FTE account clerks. It's not really accounting, it's account clerks. And 0.75 FTE office support specialist. The work has gotten much more
complicated and sophisticated.
Sophisticated, complicated, more accounts management, and more interface with the different state agencies. The one page you have in front of you here represents potential salaries, I call them potential compensation savings. Somewhere between, let's say, conservatively, I will say $2,000 versus $13,600. Now, the reason why we're talking, if we have, let's look at proposal 1. If we go to 0.75 FTE office support specialist and a 2 FTE accounting clerk, and the person that fills in for that position at a step 1 elects single coverage for their health compensation, this could net the department as much as $13,626 doing this change. Moreover, it actually meets the needs of the department for the work that has to be done going forward, which is what's driving this. This is Commissioner Storley. I would say this is one of those processes that goes a long way that they've had in looking at lean work, how we can work better, closer together, better, and fill the work, get the needs of the people met. Proposal, it's not really proposal 2, it's the same proposal, but if the person elects family coverage, we, at a step 1, would have a potential salary savings of $2,936. Now, the reason why I said that it might be a little less than that is if we had a lateral transfer, someone internally were to take this job and we're currently at step 2 or 3 or higher, of course and they elect family coverage, that $2,900 figure would be lesser, as well as the $13,600 figure being a less amount, lower amount, I should say. Any way we look at it, worst case scenario is it's cost neutral with minor savings. Best case case scenario from an economic perspective is that it is, could save us upward of $13,000. I'd like Mary to talk about the significance of changing though from office support specialist to an accounts clerk and what that really means for the effectiveness of the office.
Morning, Commissioners. So we have taken a fair amount of time here, after we received notice so that this position was going to be vacant. And it's always a great idea, I think, at those times to really look to see what are your current needs and then how are you going to move into the future. And we spent a fair amount of time really looking to see where did we have some capacity. Is there some things there that we needed to streamline, or is there some things that we can just stop doing? And I think one of the things that's a little bit new and different for me, and coming from a medium-sized agency to a small agency, is just really looking to see, particularly in some of those essential functions, and I would say that this account clerk position is an essential function in that we had one person doing it and no backup, and there's some very critical functions there with regards to accounts receivable, accounts payable, which potentially could impact your cash flow. And so we really are looking for, putting positions back in place that seem to make sense. The other kind of wild card that we're dealing with these days, and I know that you've been hearing some about this from social services, is just the whole min choices beast that's out there. And we're starting to see now some impact in our revenue, some dollars coming in. We don't, and when I say it's a wild card, it is a wild card. We really don't know what the state's formula is, exactly how we are being reimbursed. I don't know if that's good or bad. It makes it a challenge for planning. But one of the things that we know is that there's an awful lot of data entry, initial data entry that has to happen once we get a referral for this min choices. To have the nurses do this just makes absolutely no sense. These screenings that the nurses are doing have really increased the time in nurse time. We used to be able to do an assessment within an hour, and now by the time they've completed the paperwork, we're looking on the upwards and from 6 to 7 hours between the time that they go and complete their assessment to the time that the data entry is done. So we're hoping again to kind of streamline some of that process and offset those duties with this account clerk position. So that's essentially what you see here. The other thing, as far as our office support, we aren't really a real busy office. We're not like the license center and places that people are coming in and out of all the time. Our reception needs are just not as significant that I see since I've been here. And it is a reduction in some office support reception work. And, I think we've got a good plan in how we can figure that out. This person in the office support reception will still continue to do all the home health aid scheduling. That can be done first thing in the mornings, which generally makes sense. And then we'll have to have this person work full days on weekdays when we have people coming in or when we do the LaCresse clinic. So we're going to work around that. But ultimately, this is the recommendation that we have. We feel that it meets our needs for today and going into the future.
So proposal 1 is what you're thinking, you said, right?
Proposal 1 and 2 are identical.
Yeah.
Except
Or
for the-
possibilities.
Depends on insurance.
It's 1 or 2 are possibilities.
Okay,
Yeah.
so either one you're fine with though?
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
They are the same proposal, Commissioner, it's just that one
Yep.
reflects.
Is the
Yep.
.75 the vacant position will turn to, or
No,
is a
what this
person's
rep-
hours getting cut?
Yes, the person's hours are getting cut. And that will likely not happen until, we're saying, mid to late February. That person will certainly have the option to apply for the account clerk position, should that person decide to do that. And I realize that that's probably something new and different that's not been happening before, but it just makes sense in trying to be fiscally responsible. We have some other needs that we're going to be visiting about in the future, and we're trying to figure that out. So it's from a higher level. There's a lot of moving parts here, and we just are trying to do our part.
This chart here, Commissioners, This lower box, office support specialist, the current status right now is 2.0 FTE, with 1 FTE being vacant. The plan, the proposal would be to reduce that box by 1.25 and up here add a second FTE in the box above.
You're saying reduce it by 1.25 or reduce it to 1.25?
By
Okay.
1.25, leaving a
The 0.7, I see,
0.75
gotcha.
position.
Yep.
And maybe the boxes were a little confusing, might have been for you.
It makes sense to me. I
Yep.
think we
Yeah, it
should.
does.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead with it.
Second.
Yours.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And we are tweaking the position description, commissioners. It will not require rebanding, but of course, because we
We were added, yeah. We needed to move things
to
around.
move things around, it will be being reviewed right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And lastly, I spoke with the county attorney this morning. We're recommending entering into an agreement with, oh, pardon me, before I go further, Mary, we're looking at a request to have a cell phone stipend of $30 for Laura O'Haron. She's taking over the WIC breastfeeding care counselor supervisor program and is on call basically 24/7. So we're shifting that from the nurse that currently has that stipend to that, but I need a formal motion to make it
So it's a
effective.
transfer from
It's
the
a
other nurse to
transfer.
this nurse.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead with that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. And then lastly, I spoke with the county attorney this morning, and she has reviewed the settlement agreement that MCIT sent us for an amount of $742,128.89 as a total settlement for the water damage to the historic Houston County Jail. And would be issuing a check for the adjustment that they recently agreed. And $11,000 some odd dollars for us, so.
I move we accept the settlement agreement with MCIT for $742,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Chairwoman Walter, this will need to be signed by you, but it needs to be done so in front of a notary, just so that, you know.
You can sign for Michelle. She can notarize it.
Okay. Bam.
Good morning. I just wanted to come in front of you guys today. We are going to, we as in Houston County, are going to start e-recording, or we're starting the process. I've got my software agreements from TriMin, which is the person we've been working with since '96, or the company we've been working with. And I've got them over to the county attorney's office. They're just run-of-the-mill, very short. I'm taking it out of my technology fund, so I don't need a motion or anything like that. What I do need from you, I want to notify you that we're going to be doing e-recording. But as usual, when I use the technology fund for this, there's a maintenance agreement. And so I just need to know from you guys that through TriMin, we have we're going to one big bill for maintenance. So all of my programs will be just billed once a year. But this one, being we're just coming on, has got to be paid separately, and then next year it'll be into this one bill. I just need to know that if these technology funds ever go away, that you guys are willing to pick up the maintenance agreement.
What's the total on that? Do you know?
The total of this one is $2,500.
Okay.
But, like I
And all the other
said,
ones?
next year, when I figure out what the actual package deal is, supposedly you're gonna get a break if you do the package deal, so that's what we're looking at. And this is included in that package deal, and I'll let you know. And I've always come forward with you guys, and you've always said, yes, you know, if this technology fund goes away, that the maintenance will still be in place.
Do you know what your technology fund is? If that ever went away, what we're on the hook for?
What you're looking at?
Yeah.
I don't right offhand
That's
now, but I will give you an update before the end of the year to know what it's
Okay.
gonna be. Because that's the same with the compliance fund, you know, all of Dan's, or GIS
Yep.
maintenance. You know, I always come make sure that you guys are aware that if those two funds ever go away. And they're really pushing hard, the Real Estate Association is pushing hard that, you know, they've established these two funds and they want everybody to be recording, so. I don't want to be, at first I always thought I'd be the last, somebody's got to be last, but I'm not going to be. They're getting to close to where at least half of the counties are e-recording, so it's about time.
Yeah.
I don't know, being we're such a small county, how many documents that's going to entail at the beginning, but we're going to start with just documents that don't go over for transfer or mortgage and stuff like that, and work our way into those other documents, and I'll be talking to you guys as we move along in that, so.
Sounds good.
Cool.
So I don't know, do we usually do a motion chart, do you know? Or does it just get put in the minutes that they agreed to?
Yeah.
Yeah, just a consensus. You know,
Pardon me?
I said probably just a consensus. It's coming out of your compliant, you know.
Yep,
Yep.
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 This will be out of technology
All right,
though.
that's what I
because-
meant, that's
yeah,
what I meant, yep, sorry.
Yeah.
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 Sounds
Okay,
good.
that's all I need.
Yeah, we gotta pay our
Thank you.
bills.
All
Thanks,
right,
Beth.
Does that technology fund come up, fees, charges?
recording fees.
Recording fees?
Documents right now, the recording fee is $46, and $10 goes into the technology fund, and $11 goes into the compliance fund. The technology fund is for the recorder's office to use to keep my office in technology like e-recording. Compliance is for land use offices to use to keep, so that documents keep flowing, and, you know, we use them for things in the IT department that affect all of the land use offices too, so. And that was the purpose, is to make recording up to date.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, right?
You're next. Thank you, Mark.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
This is information only. Right now, we have 2 transport vans that are at the life expectancy, I would say, as transport vans in our county. One has close to 240,000, and the other one has 222,000 miles on it.
That's what I like to hear, Mark.
So we run them to the end, but we still get good prices when we trade them in, because I've been doing some research on it. I've been talking to several different dealers, and they're giving us proposals. I have one right back right now that's going to be working on this week. I'm looking for 1 or 2 more coming in this week. And we want to stay within our budget. Purchase the 2 new vans. I think the budget is at $30,000 with the trade-in. So I'm getting some 2014 vans for some pretty prices right now. I am looking locally, and I'm looking in Wisconsin as well. So just want to, don't need a motion. Let's just give you an update on it.
Cool, thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks, Mark.
Happy shopping.
Okay, consent agenda. Correspondence from the Minnesota Historical Society regarding Hoka Municipal Building.
I think that is huge.
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
they've put so much, well, Barb especially leading the cause, has put so much time and energy into
Mhm.
that I think that, we should thank her publicly for all
Yeah.
her time and effort she's put in, and all the knowledge she has that can help us with any other buildings that are
Mhm.
going forward too. And the whole city of Hoka, it's a great thing.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Unfinished business. We don't have anything on the Braxton issue updates. Highway Department will have our tour next week, I believe. And courthouse, we just did the settlement on that, and we'll be moving forward on that too. Commissioner reports, Dana?
Yeah, last week I had a busy week. On Tuesday, I attended a safety meeting, a county safety meeting, and they're working on how the county responds to a major emergency like a natural disaster, on how where they're gonna move things and how, and prioritize what's gonna get done, and, you know, have a priority order on what gets paid and how we respond. We sent that back to the department heads to have each department work on what they'd like to see. They've been working on that for quite some time, and now I think we're gonna get somewhere on that. On Wednesday, I had the EDA meeting down in Houston at the International Hall Center. Very good meeting. Carla Bloom is her name, gave a very good presentation on where they're going, and they got some really big ideas for Houston down there and for the whole county of Houston. Really a great meeting. And Judy was there also, and I'm sure she'll talk more about it.
Says it with such
You keep better
confidence.
notes than I do. And then on Friday, Judy and I also canvassed the boats here. County boat. Made sure the boats were certified for the state. And that was my week. So.
And I showed up for the frac sand meeting along with Bob and Rick, and we're the only ones here last week. So there's a little bit of miscommunication there, but there are two issues that we probably will meet here in the next week or two to resolve that were brought up kind of after the fact. Jay has not gotten to the ordinances yet. He should be in the next few weeks, anyways, I'll talk to Environmental Services and I'll talk to Naomi and stuff and just see about that. Just having a quick little meeting about those issues. One other thing too that was brought up a long time ago, and I guess we haven't done anything about it. Maybe we should too by the end of the year. The radios we have for the sheriff's department and the highway shop, everybody's
800.
Radios. Currently, right now, we only have one person that's really trained into dealing with those radios and doing that, which is Scott. We had the same issue with Andy and IT for a long time, that you've got one person and if something happens to them, we don't have anybody. I know the radios are really confusing, and I've had a few people from different cities that are utilizing the radios, and they've always asked, what do we do if something happens? We don't have anybody trained in to step in. And I mentioned that we had that same issue with Andy here at the IT. Now we have Jeremiah there that at least knows what's going on, that if something happened, we have somebody pick up where we left off. So I just wanted to bring that up too.
We do kind of have a backup though, don't we? With the radios, as far as the whole organization that we do it under.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was.
You know, I mean, at least we have
Correct.
people we can go to.
Right,
Yeah.
and I know it was brought up that there's nobody that, like for the training to use them or to.
Yeah, another trainer, a backup
Yeah,
trainer.
yeah, and so that was something that I just wanted to bring up, that maybe, I don't know if everybody wants to just to pass on that, maybe we need to have just Scott find somebody just to kind of help train in and get them on par, just in case something happens, we've got some redundancy. So anyways, I just wanted to bring that up.
And he doesn't for sure have anybody that he's.
From what everybody's been telling me, no. I haven't talked to Scott. Actually, I was hoping he was coming in because I was going to ask him that question. So
Okay.
we can find out. But I just want to put on everybody's radar that if not, we should probably go on that ASAP in case something happens.
Yeah,
That
they are
we
complicated.
got a lot of money invested in a lot of people utilizing them. So
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. I just want everybody to know that we're not in crisis with it.
No, right, yeah,
Because-
sure.
Because we
yeah.
do belong to the radio board,
Right.
who gives us a lot of backup
And they'll give us
support.
training.
And if we needed to
Yeah.
borrow somebody from another county to
Right.
train in, we always could.
Which they
but-
do, yeah.
But, yep, but for quick little things, or if Scott's on vacation or something like that, and all of a sudden something happens,
hotline,
somebody can say,
yeah.
okay, I'll take over, we don't have to bother
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
else, so. Yeah, right, good
Mhm.
point, Judy, we're not in a crisis situation, but
Right.
just to have something in the background, so.
It's a good idea for every job.
Right, right.
Okay, I really didn't have anything.
I had Hiawatha Valley Mental Health on Monday, and we got part of our loan for the new building that we've been talking about. We've got some state funds, so now we have to figure out if we're getting another grant that can help us match it, so we can pull the whole thing together. But we're working real closely with the state, and hopefully by 2016, we have another building that we can utilize for mental health
And that's in Winona, correct?
in Winona.
You have property purchase?
We have a purchase agreement, and it's, it's behind, it's kind of hard to describe where it is, but it's behind the bowling alley, if you know Winona. It's behind there, and it's a wooded lot, but the advantage to that lot is that it's, it can be, it can be made to, the building can be made to fit that lot. Plus, the people that we deal with need transportation close by, and then there's all that stuff right out in front of it, and yet behind it is a residential area. So it's a really unique place that the first time we went and looked at it, I went, here? But it is really a good spot. We looked at a lot of different spaces. Winona's like a lot of other towns where the property that's available is too old to repurpose, and lots prime up there, so we're feeling pretty good about this. And then we did the All Center thing on Tuesday. The one thing, we will be having somebody hopefully coming forward nominated to be on our EDA board. We still have one spot open for one more person. I guess bringing up EDA, I wanted to talk a little bit about the services from CETA now compared to what they were before. And Carol, I don't know if you know the schedule for what Sam is in the office, but it's hard to connect to find out when he's in. And I just feel like when Ron talked to us about it, he put two people out and we were gonna have some say in it, but I feel like we've lost that. And I don't feel like our CETA person right now is as connected to the county as before. Like when I talk to someone, I can't say he's always in this day or he's always in that day. And I think that we need to address that with CETA, and I don't know, I mean, do you want me to, I can contact Ron and talk to him, but I kind of wanted to know how the rest of the board was
I
feeling.
think that'd be good, because Rick was up,
Rick, you knew when he was
Yep.
gonna be
Mhm.
here.
Yep,
Mhm.
and he made himself useful.
Yeah.
Through that same schedule, but they did have 3 new employees starting and.
Right, but I don't want us to slide
Well,
under.
And he does, he lets me know what his schedule is going to be.
But
it has changed because of different contracts with different places.
But he really should be reporting to all of us what his schedule is going to be.
And we're trying to get that set up too on a calendar.
Yeah, we need to have a lot better connection with him, because he really should answer to the board.
Mhm.
Because
we contract with him.
Because we contract with him. And I feel like even if he interacted more with Dana and I, because we're on the EDA board, but we're missing that part that we had before.
I'd like to let him know to make sure to,
Well, make sure you CC Judy and Dana on everything, or,
we have to get it set up where, when he's going to be here for sure, but because of
Right.
the varying schedules, it hasn't been.
I just don't want us as a county to lose the momentum that we were gaining.
I don't believe we are.
Well, in a way we are, because I've had to talk to somebody who we've been working with who hasn't made a connection. And so there are just different things as we're working on EDA that we're not connecting with like we should. So, and I think.
I think you should definitely send an email to Ron and CC Sam to point that out.
Yeah,
That
I
we're
don't want
looking
it to
for
go
more.
so far that we totally disconnect.
Yeah, it's really so
Well, and it's not even a
Essential.
RIC thing, it's, this is the position that we
contract
contracted for.
Right.
And if we're paying for the service,
For 14 hours a
we're
week,
expecting
we need to know
that,
when.
yes,
Mhm.
very much so.
And it was going to be a Wednesday and Friday, Wednesday,
But I think.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then because of the different contract they have, and the place wasn't going to be open on Fridays, so he couldn't get that to work. So they are
It
working.
would be nice if they were here on Tuesday when we have our meeting. I would talk to Rick in his office on Tuesday.
Right.
That's true.
I think that would be helpful, but I don't know
That would be nice.
that, at least 1 week, they should do that.
Right, I mean, there should be, if they're gonna switch, like every other week should be a Tuesday, because
Right.
it's really important that we stay connected, because that's a huge chunk
Mhm.
of what our goals are, as far as expanding as a county, so. Okay, and then I did the canvassing board. I'm sorry, I'm kind of windy, but, you know, I think about this stuff. I did the canvassing board, and that was really interesting.
It was good.
Yeah, and that's my report.
I had a solid waste meeting, but I didn't bring all my notes for today because they're sitting on the table right now. But it was very good.
Thanks for not bringing solid waste.
But I didn't bring any solid waste either, but it's a very good meeting. It's, they're really planning for the future because different contracts will come up with Xcel Energy and that energy, gas to energy program they have going for Gunderson and stuff. So I'll bring a better report
Do you
next
remember
week.
when we did that, when they had their annual meeting?
That was in June.
We should all try to go to that
It was
annual meeting
excellent this
because
year.
you really get a lot of information and it really affects us as a county.
Oh, very much so, because we have a contract with them too. But Rick is essential on that board, and he probably has more history than anybody there with how it's evolved, so I'll bring that report next week. Okay, approval of the claims.
I move to approve the claims, human services and license center disbursements.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
One other discussion item too I wanted to bring up. We've got some vacancies in the planning commission we're talking about filling.
Yeah, and I submitted to Rick the name I have for District 4.
Sure.
So, and you were finding somebody for
Yeah, I haven't
your
got
district?
anybody yet, so I've got
Okay.
anybody back yet. For District 5.
Okay.
When we get the names back, are we deciding then?
We appoint them.
Is that commissioners?
It was part of business, yeah.
Is,
And I only had
we'll
one,
bring that
so,
up to the planning commission and we're looking at it.
yep. Well, and like I
Because we
said,
kind of need it by
by
December.
Mhm.
Yeah.
January
Soon.
And if for
1st.
some reason, I mean, it has to go to February, then we just run a few short. Because I think statutorily it's between 5 and 9, so we're still
Yeah, we
okay.
could get by
But
with one.
one of the things I guess I was going to talk about with that, when those names come forward, I was just thinking, do we need to run it through a filter, you know, like personnel or something, just to meet, just to look background, meet with them, whatever, and then bring it to the board?
I can give you
I
the
mean,
name.
just. You know,
Do they need a background check?
No.
But I mean, just to have, like, the
Yeah.
person, just to look into it or whatever, meet with them or whatever, and just film it. You know, I'm just saying, even if there's only one candidate, I mean, just to have,
I can give it to you and Steve.
yeah, just, yeah. You filter it through the channels, I guess, you know, like we do for
Okay.
any
Yeah.
other thing.
I don't think we had interviews last year because we had so many
Right.
apply.
Well, that's what I'm saying, if we only have one, at least still, you know,
Um,
we don't need to necessarily have an interview,
Yeah.
but at least
No.
go through, you know, the personnel committee or whatever, just to, you know, and then bring it forward and say, this is our candidate, whatever, and, you know, does that make sense?
Hey, personnel committee, how are negotiations going?
Actually, we got to meet with Tess on that one.
Yeah, 18 coming
Yep.
up is our next one.
Because it's getting close to the end of the
It is.
year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
I know.
Hopefully we can get something worked out here soon, so.
Mhm.
Just keep us posted.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, absolutely.
Are we gonna work on the levy to try and bring it down, or?
Well, usually what we do is we have meetings with the major departments one more time. I don't know if you've
We'll have that
reviewed
through
all
the
your
taxation.
budgets
Get a
there.
lot of people.
And we'll have to approve the final levy, but we also have to have the negotiations too to figure out what.
I know,
Okay.
that's a big thing.
So, yep.
Yes, that's what I was going to bring up. I guess it was supposed to be finance review for the month. I mailed out the October one for this time on the agenda. So if you had any questions regarding the October financial reports.
I thought it was looking pretty good, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Then I was also going to let you know that we had our entrance meeting for our 2014 audit with the state auditors. And I did discuss that being able to establish, not a special revenue fund, but like a
Capital improvements.
01 that's our general revenue fund, and we established like 02 to be where we put that money that we're holding for capital projects or other things that doesn't qualify for a special revenue account, and they said that's fine. But when we do our financial reports, it would all be rolled into the general fund. And I think what we also established a fund to account for the things that we don't really have control over how we spend the money. We have the sheriff's forfeitures accounts. We have the canteen fund that we've designated to pay for things. And what we would do is mirror the department members within that fund so that you could actually see the money that they're spending that's budget money, and then keep that money separately, because it can only be spent on certain things. And we have all the revenue coming in, so it's inflating our revenue budgets, but we don't have control. Well, I mean, we have control over the things that it's spent on as long as it's covered in the designations by statute or whatever. I mean, we have to cover recorder's equipment. We have that money inflates the recorder's office budget. Then we do a fund balance applied entry, which never really hits their department, so their end of year budgets look off. So I think mirroring this within another designated fund would make it easier for you to understand how the funds are actually going.
Okay.
And they said that was okay.
Good. Any other questions for Carol? Okay. Any other business to come before the board?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.